Welcome back to part 5 of me beating Calamity while feeling a breeze somewhere I probably shouldn't feel it. In the last episode I made my way through all the remaining hard mode bosses, with the Plaguebringer Goliath putting up an exceptionally strong fight. Like all the others that came before it however, it still fell all the same, letting me finish up hard mode and move on to what I thought at the time was the final stretch. There we go. With the Moonlord defeated, I get straight to work excavating the planetoids that spawn for their Luminite. This isn't anywhere near as useful as it would be in a playthrough where I could make armour and accessories from it, but it still unlocks a vast array of new weapons to try out. Most important of which is the Super Radiant Slaughterer. I didn't realise it at the time, but once I learn how to properly use this, it ends up being one of the strongest weapons in the entire playthrough. Along with the weapons, I also craft a Normality Relocator, which essentially acts as a Rod of Discord that works from my inventory with a hotkey. Even in regular playthroughs, this is a very powerful item, and the ability to easily reposition or dodge a hit at the last second is absolutely vital in a challenge like this. That's really all I can get before moving on to the next boss, which comes with a bit of a breakthrough in how the Stygian shield actually works. Dragon Folly itself really isn't too bad. I can counter its dashes just like I did with Duke Fishron and the Plaguebringer, and can reliably dodge its projectiles using either my mount or hook. The real issue is the Draconic Swarmers it spawns. Even if they didn't kill me themselves, trying to avoid them often would, and so for a while I was quite thoroughly stuck with what to do. Oh, why did it not let me teleport? I kept bashing my head against Dragon Folly and its stupid little minions, but it just wouldn't budge. That is, until someone in my chat drops an absolute nuke of knowledge in the form of a very simple question. Am I remembering right and Stygian Shield can frame through projectiles as well? Can it? Turns out, yes, it can, and I've been using it wrong this whole time. I was under the impression that the shield would give immunity frames if I dash into an enemy. Turns out it just gives immunity, full stop. This means I can straight up dash through Dragon Folly's laser walls and feathers to keep my distance. And even better, it seems that if the player is far enough away, Dragon Folly won't spawn any Draconic Swarmers. This is just an endurance game at this point. The only remaining problem is that I need to keep my dash ready at a moment's notice, so I have to rely almost entirely on minions for damage in the first two phases. Yeah, this is more than doable with this strategy. It's just a long fight. You're not really intended to fight Dragon Folly for 6 minutes. Once he enters phase 3 at 40% health, he loses the ability to spawn Draconic Swarmers, so I could stay a little closer and use sentries for much higher damage. Eee, we got there. Yeah, turns out the Stygian Shield is OP. Turns out it's not that OP however, as I still die another 9 times while trying to farm for the mount he drops, eventually just giving up and moving on to the Profaned Guardians instead. Okay, healer phase is definitely doable, it looks like, and we might even get an adrenaline. Oh, that was a little cagey. And the turning was not ideal. Okay, time to turn around. Or just time to get killed. I think I maybe need to switch to the Stygian Shield for that part. Oh, I just went right into that. Oh, damn. There goes like most of my health in 2 hits in the space of like 3 seconds. And then the rest of my health in the next 5. So phase 1 is absolutely fine. Phase 2 is mostly fine. It's phase 3 that I've got the issue with, I think. But I've also only got to phase 3 a couple of times, so it's possible that I just need to get better at it by practicing more. Can I get an adrenaline off before he hits me? Yes, just. think worth it for the damage. And now I just let the shield do the work and hope that my minions can hit it. If I can lead it into my sentries every now and then, that would be great as well, just for a little bit of extra damage. I just need to survive while my minions do like 600 DPS. It's just a slow fight. I was worried for a second because it stopped raining, but it looks like we're done. Nice. There's quite literally nothing new to do between the Guardians and Providence, so I get straight into fighting her. Damage could be better, could be quite a bit better actually. Aside from getting hit and dying all the time, the major issue in these first few attempts is that my damage is nowhere near high enough. With my current DPS, a successful attempt would take a minimum of around 6 minutes, and that's not even taking into account the extra defense and healing she gets when the Guardians are alive. Now with the amount of damage I'm taking, I think my chances of surviving a 6-minute battle are pretty much zero, so I need to get that kill time as low as possible. That's where the Super Radiant Slaughterer comes into play. This has the potential for some truly insane damage for its stage in progression, but it's not your run-of-the-mill point-and-shoot ranger weapon, so getting the most out of it takes quite a bit of practice and concentration. When left-clicking, you charge up a spinning saw blade that increases in size and damage over time, which shoots out when released and will return after some time. Right-clicking will instead shoot out a stationary saw blade that fires homing bolts at nearby enemies. For as long as this saw blade is active, all other saw blades will home into the player's cursor, massively increasing the damage potential of each one. Okay, yeah, never mind, I think we found our weapon. The right click attack has a much longer cooldown than the left click, so learning the timing of each takes me quite a while. Regardless, even after just one attempt, it's clear that this will be the way. Okay, that was good damage, I just need to get better at also not taking damage while doing that because it takes quite a lot of concentration to use that weapon correctly. Over the next few dozen attempts, I slowly get better at both dodging Providence and using the Super Radiant Slaughterer, with me even managing to get to the Guardian phase on one attempt. For all of 3 seconds. Oh, I just teleported the wrong way. That's the furthest we've got, and I think it showed that it is possible. You just have to play, like, perfectly to get there. That was like 3 adrenalines or something. It's really annoying. Regardless of how good I get at the fight, however, it only takes a single mistake to turn a good attempt bad. Oh, that is harsh. I'm dead. That's so annoying. That is closest, I think, probably by far. The fact that we're getting closer each time means I think it's possible. Okay, I am going to leave it there, and the next time I come on, I'll probably end up doing it first time or something. After a full night's sleep to reinforce all this practice, I return the next day and get even closer, managing to take down all 3 Guardians on both my second and third attempts of the day. Oh, there's too many there. Oh. Even still, I felt like my damage needed to be higher to get through that final phase without dying. I consider switching to different alcohols, but other than Everclear, these are all pretty marginal buffs, and I make a pretty clear stance against Everclear that won't be easily swayed. Everclear is just never worth it. Like, 25% damage is not worth 5 HP per second, and the 30% defense doesn't really matter in my case, but Although, if I just don't get hit, maybe Everclear works. The extra damage provided by Everclear makes quite a difference in the speed of the fight. Granted, each hit is more punishing as it takes a few seconds for my natural healing to catch up with the -5 regen, but at a certain point it doesn't really matter whether you lose 320 or 360 health per hit. The winning strategy remains the same, just don't get hit. Unfortunately, that's a lot easier said than done, with her Star Cocoon phase being a standout among the rest. In an attack like this where I have to weave through the small gaps between projectiles, the increased hitbox height from the Shrimpy Truffle really starts to become noticeable. If I can get over this one last hurdle, I might just be able to eke out a win. Hey, we did it. Everclear to the rescue, it seems. Ah, that's a relief. Defeating Providence spawns Yuli Bloom ore, so after mining some up I craft the Elderberry for another 25 max life, along with a new summon, pickaxe, and fishing rod. I get straight to work using said fishing rod to catch bloodfins, a healing potion alternative that I can now reel up in the Brimstone Crags. These offer slightly less health than Supreme Healing Potions, but grant more health overall thanks to the regen they provide, which is even stronger when afflicted with a damaging debuff. In addition to Bloodfins, the Brimstone Crags now also grant access to Bloodstone as an enemy drop. The first thing I craft with this is the Brimrose mount, which is slower than the Shrimpy Truffle while wet, but still remains useful anywhere I can't get water or rain, which just so happens to be exactly the case for the next boss. My first try against Cygnus proves that I won't be able to dodge him with the Brimrose alone, so for the next few attempts I use the Stygian Shield for movement instead of focusing on damage. As I'm sure you could guess, this means I'm in for a pretty long fight, in fact much longer than I can even survive. A larger arena with proper buff stations should help, so I get to work excavating the very first arena I've ever made specifically for Cygnus. Usually I just reuse whatever I had for the Brimstone Elemental or Underworld Providence, but without armour or accessories it seems even Cygnus is a challenge. This is the most I've ever had to prepare for Cygnus, and I do not like it. It's a pretty big arena, should probably be okay, let's give him a try. Okay, so we're just dealing really low damage to him for what we would normally be dealing at this point, I think. But we're managing to dodge for the most part. Is there a phase 2 to Cygnus? I feel like I never normally have to fight him for long enough to find out. When using the Stygian Shield, it took me around 3 minutes to get him down to 1/3 health. Oh, the debuff. But when actually attacking, it takes just 55 seconds to get to roughly the same spot. So at this point I really just have to decide between a slower and safer fight, or a faster, much more dangerous one. It's just, I go from full health to no health in 0 time. Maybe I just have to accept that it's a long fight and I'm just going to have to fight it with minions and summons and all that. Because I can avoid damage pretty easily with the shield. The only problem is dealing damage. Although that's 5% gone already, that's not too bad. so 40% through the fight. I think I've taken one hit. It's just a really boring way to fight a boss. Very boring indeed, especially when I go through it all just to die at 20% health anyway. In the end, the successful attempt takes 4.5 minutes. I'll spare you having to actually watch it. The sad part is I don't really gain anything from beating him, as none of his weapons are better than what I already have. So it's just a case of moving straight on to the next boss. I'd already tried Stormweaver a couple times before Cygnus, and the main issue seems to be getting through phase 1, where every segment other than his tail has massive defense and damage reduction. Do I have to get through 100% of that? Oh no, 80%, okay. That's a lot of damage though, that I have to get through. Once again, the Super Radiant Slaughterer seems to be the quickest at slicing through it, but the Shrimpy Truffle alone doesn't quite have the manoeuvrability to dodge the lightning bolts and Stormweaver himself, so I once again fall back on the Stygian Shield for mobility. Okay, we've done 1% damage. %2 damage. Okay, another 10 minutes and I'll maybe be in phase 2. Or I'll just die before I get there. That's also a possibility. Other than it taking a full 3 minutes to get rid of just 20% of his health, this ends up working pretty well. And while phase 2 starts out just as slowly, once I swap my sentry to the Lunar Portal Staff, it picks up pace thanks to his segments finally taking more than 1 damage at a time. Oh. Okay, that strategy works well, I just need to not die at the end. I can just outrun the damage from that. Yeah, I can just get out of that actually. And then bring him back here. And then it's actually quite easy. We are not always the thrower class, only most of the time. Unlike Cygnus, Stormweaver actually does offer a viable upgrade in the form of the Stellar Taurus Staff, which is basically the minion equivalent of the Lunar Portal Staff, both of which are the perfect summons to use against the next boss. Unfortunately, however, there does not exist a single weapon strong enough to save me from the absolute hell that would be Ceaseless Void. While the Brimrose mount is good, it can't quite compare to the extra movement speed and damage of the Shrimpy Truffle when wet. I set up 2 bubble columns I can fly through to refresh the wet buff, but the slight inconsistency in speed only makes things worse. So after another hour filled with dozens of deaths, I decide to destroy even more of the dungeon and drown the whole thing. And while this did take a rather long time, it also made a rather large difference. Oh, so close there. Come on. Next phase, please. And sucked straight into it. One of the hardest parts of this fight is that during the stationary vortex attack, the player will be sucked towards the void with most forms of movement becoming impossible. It's not the worst, however. That award undoubtedly goes to Ceaseless rotating 45 degrees around the player every 4 seconds while the orbs that spiral around it try to catch up. This makes for an incredibly difficult pattern to learn, with many movements seeming sporadic even if there is some obscure internal consistency behind it. The rotating is so bad in fact that it got made exclusive to For the Worthy in the most recent update, which also happened to nerf Ceaseless Void's health and damage by a pretty significant amount. Sadly I'm not on that update however, so I just have to get good. Something not. Oh, that died as it hit me. That's so annoying. Eventually I switched back to Everclear for increased damage, as with the right timing I could essentially skip an entire Vortex phase thanks to the Super Radiant Slaughterer. Other than that, it's just a case of practice and slowly refining my strategy. If you asked me to describe how to dodge this boss, I wouldn't quite be able to put it into words. But over time I just seem to know exactly where to put myself and when. I enter into a kind of flow state where I don't have to think about dodging or aiming, I just do it. That is, until some absolute bullshit happens and I die. Ah. And that. Ah. Ceaseless Void sucks. Yes, I believe he does. Both figuratively and literally. Literally can't move away. How does it, like, how's the boss better by not making you able to move left and right? How does that improve the boss in any way? Doesn't exactly make it more fun. It makes it a little bit more challenging, I guess, in the same way that, like, Confused makes things more challenging. But, like, no one enjoys Confused. Ah, 1.3. 1.3. Oh, I just got sucked right into that. Oh, I released my cursor there, and I didn't dash. Oh, that's so annoying. Like I said, it's possible with what we've got at the moment. And I think it'll take less time to do it using the current strategy than it will by changing the strategy entirely. Oh, that's an annoying hit. Millisecond before it changed phase. It's probably not the run this one. Okay, going into the final phase with an adrenaline is pretty big. Hey, we did it. Oh, that was the most attempts so far that it has taken to beat a boss. 180, about 3 times as many as Skeletron Prime. Oh, we did it. We did it. But to see me do anything else, I'm afraid you'll have to wait for the next episode. Apologies for this one taking so long. I got a little distracted by the 4-boss low percent run, which left very little time for this. I hope to get the next one out much sooner, but regardless, thank you very much for watching this one, and a special thanks to my patrons for their continued support.